Hello and welcome to Represent NYC on the Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Thank you for joining us today. I'm City Councilmember Keith Powers and I represent New York City's District 4, covering the East Side, Manhattan and Midtown, with some of the city's greatest landmarks and tourist attractions like Rockefeller Center, Grand Central Terminal, and Empire State Building. As many of you know, COVID-19 has devastated our city in too many ways to count. One of the major economic impacts has been our tourism industry. And I've recently published a plan that addresses a number of ways to boost tourism here in the city. It's called Passport to Recovery. A plan to help bring back New York City's tourism industry includes new ideas like open neighborhoods, destination districts, and live from New York relief for our independent music and arts venues. I'm here to talk with a friend of mine about tourism in our independent venues and music. I'm here with Justin Kantor, who's a co-founder of Poisson Rouge, otherwise known as LPR to many New Yorkers. Justin is a professional musician who I think still plays and has been responsible for curating the classical and new music programming at LPR. He's played with orchestras such as the Wordless Music Orchestra and Ensemble, artists such as Karen O and Mike Snow, and he can be heard on recordings by Miley Cyrus, Cold Cave, and Zola Jesus. We're going to talk about all those. He serves as co-founding board member and vice president of the National Independent Venue Association and is co-chair of the New York Independent Venue Association. I have been to his venue. It's a great venue. You should go when it's open. It's known for its expansive and diverse programming, has been host to world-class artists such as Yo-Yo Ma, Beck, Philip Glass, Iggy Pop, and Lorde. It's in Greenwich Village and tends to welcome New Yorkers and people from all over. Justin's here today to join me for a robust discussion on tourism and how we continue to save our stages. Justin, welcome. And before I get into questions, I just got to say, you have been working so hard nationally right now to save music venues in this country. And I think everybody deserves to know that and to say a big thank you, because we are so anxious to get back to music and arts. But why don't you just give us, just a sense right now of where things are and where the music industry is, where the venues are, and what's coming in relief and what you think you still need in terms of getting reopened.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for the kind words and for allowing us to have our voices be heard as much as possible. I think it still really is the most important thing that our organizations can do right now, the NIVA and NAIVA. Yeah, it's been a real roller coaster ride. Obviously, this time last year, we had no idea how long that we would be shuttered for. Our industry is, I think at this point, it's safe to say there is no industry harder hit than live performance spaces. I was just thinking, even the airlines don't come close at this point. We're truly shuttered and just starting to reopen here in New York at, very few venues are capable of even accomplishing that feat. But we have the permission to do so. It's been a challenge for small business to be closed for over a year at this point. And, these are businesses that operate on very, very small profit margins. So you can just imagine, just logically, if a business requires, a 90+% occupancy to survive, to not have zero occupancy for a year, the math is not really that great. So that's kind of where things have been. There's been the focus on advocacy. It was a major accomplishment to get some national visibility and even a industry specific grant called the Shutter Venue Operators Grant, thanks to probably many people who are listening in right now who helped get the word out with the SOS, Save Our Stages Act. But that grant, as great as it is taking a very, very long time for the funds to hit, for even the application to open up. It's not opening up till tomorrow. And that, this was something that was passed in the relief package at the end of this early January, I guess. So there's still the issue that venues are not on sure footing, complete uncertainty. The funds are not there yet. And also trying to open up it, in a way that will add further financial loss to these operators.
I don't think many people realize that with venues, you have to be open at 75, 80, 90% capacity to make it worth your time to book like a touring act or to pay to even turn the lights on. I think many people think that the 30% capacity might do it for you guys right now, but you didn't have, a lot of people didn't have outdoor dining here or take advantage of some programs that he had. And you to get back, it's gonna take some time. How long do you think, because you anticipate right now, it is before venues are able to get back up and running with touring artists at full capacity? And what's the current projection on that right now?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to sort of put this into perspective is that each event that a venue throws it's really sort of a unique event, the same way like putting on a wedding or something like that. So you can imagine the sort of time and like lead time that's needed for something like that to happen. Now imagine this with trying to deal with the artists that are also trying to figure out their tour schedule, trying to figure out how to even perform with their fellow bandmates in a safe way. It becomes really challenging. So I think realistically, September, you'll start seeing a more of the mid like 500 cap plus venues consider like putting on shows or be in a place to putting on shows, ramping up through till 2022. I think that's kind of where we're at. I think there's always the concern that the regulations, there'll be some backsliding and we'll have to reduce our capacity or shut down completely, which is, would be devastating if that does happen. And also, just being able to know that there's going to be some loss incurred while we kind of ramp up and how to sustain that. It's going to be a challenge.
I have to say though, I mean, your efforts personally, you've been involved in this, but across the industry, the National Independent Venues Association, NIVA, this is an industry that's not always required to go to Congress and meet senators and meet Congress members. You're mostly putting on shows and bringing life to the city, but the organizational effort here and the eventual payout of it on with the shuttered venues, I call it Save Our Stages still, but the shuttered venues funding was incredible. And I have to say, you guys, I know you had to do it to stay alive, but I have to say I stood in Times Square with Senator Schumer a few months back. I talked to another senator about it as well as we were trying to get you guys that funding, but to see the effort you guys put together is been remarkable. Just tell us about NIVA, the New York Independent Venue Association chapter, and tell us what's going on, how you guys got organized, and what it was like trying to advocate for that funding. This time
last year, there was no industry. Like we had no lobbyists. I think the term music venue was not even something that a senator or a congressperson would have ever even really understood what that was. So we had a major uphill battle. We are competing against industries with major lobbyists, like the restaurant industry, the airlines industry, the you name it industry that's been around forever on Capitol Hill. On top of that, we're a bunch of indies. Like we don't hang out together in this kind of, we don't like get together in this kind of way ever. It's never happened. So the whole fact that, NIVA was really about, I think we're close to 3,000 venues that have coalesced around this cause. That's going to also hopefully have staying power and have a major impact on the way that we can grow as independent live music throughout the nation. I mean, it's really like amazing that happened. And on top of that, because we're also DIY, putting everything together, we just were able to make things happen. And there are a lot of, too many names to mention of just operators that just became super gung-ho about it. And within their precincts and within their states and cities, were able to make the waves that we needed to make. And so the advocacy was just, the number one thing. So I think I did a video or a Zoom with Adam from Kansas City, who I think was really involved. Parky, I think his name is. And folks, throughout all of this, talking with the plight and trying to talk about it both as an elected official, but also somebody who
grew up going to, independent venues as a teenager. It's how I got into politics and how I got into music. And where do you see things now? I mean, you've gotten some of the relief. Last week, we did a letter to the mayor calling for them to use some of the money that we're getting from the federal government to set aside for venues. But what's the need now? It's in terms of, you have the shuttered venue money coming in, but it seems like there's still a need here for financial relief.
There's two parts. One is the shuttered. As I said, the venues have been closed for a year. The money from this grant is just going to help make sure that we can stay dark and not go out of business. Right. Reopening costs even more money, and I think there's first of all, a single venue in New York City, without even the economic, the economic waves, what do they call it? However, the impact is on the actual community, but the actual economy that is just driven within that one specific mid-sized venue is close to $5 million of just, throughout the year of money coming in and out of these smaller venues. I mean, the bigger ones are huge. For the city to lose even one venue is going to have a major impact on the economies within these neighborhoods. Now, so there's that part of it. The second part is based on the mayor's reporting on what the value of these venues are. They provide, I believe, 15,000 jobs to the city. Our industry also contributes $2.2 billion annually. And this one is also, I think, a major point, $500+ million to the tourism industry. So you would think that getting our spaces up and running as soon as possible would be of, a high priority task list checklist on any sort of government, like state or city initiative. And it just brings so much just on in terms of quality of life, it brings so much to these neighborhoods. So what venues really need now, we've got the SVOG, which hopefully will come through and secure these venues from actually just shuttering. Now you want us to open up as soon as possible. Willing to open up at a loss, get artists back on stage, paid, get people back to work. And I think the state and the city needs to see it that way. It's like, let's inject some capital to get things open as soon as possible. It'll help the MTA, it'll help the real estate, it'll help any politician.
It's like those empty, your venue closes, that's empty space that needs to be filled. Those are people who don't have a job. And you're in a great location for both people who want to visit and also people who are here. It's lost to the neighborhood. It's lost to the economy. I mean, I can't understand. I mean, I can't say this enough. This is so important. I want to talk about a couple of things. We talked a little bit about the recovery, but I just want to talk about your venue, music, things like that. First of all, I'll tell you, one of my favorite shows I've ever seen was at your venue, and it was actually a band that I love called Waxahachie, and she played an acoustic set at your venue in, I think, 2018, and one of my favorite all-time sets I saw. And I really, that's like the one, I've been to your venue a couple of times, but it's one of the shows I really remember, and I cannot wait to go back. But tell me about you, like what was the last show you saw? I mean, probably maybe at your own venue. What are you kind of excited about to see again when things open in terms of music and touring and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, when I think of like the quote unquote regulars at LPR that I just miss going to, that everyone's sort of become my friend too. Like the guitarists, like the guitar gods, like Nels Klein and Mark Ribot, like I miss seeing them on our stage. The classical pianist Taka Kigawa, have him play some crazy Boulez sonata, and then we can hang out afterwards, and just talk about music. Trixie Whitley, just artists, like, you need to see them live. Like, as great as their albums are, like the experience of just that live spontaneity, where the musicality it's just so apparent, that you can't really pick up on in a recording. Like Thomas Bartlett, aka Doveman, he put together these Burgundy Stain sessions where we'd have like Rufus Wainwright and St. Vincent and all these Nora Jones show up and just like jam, like I miss those days. Yeah, totally. That's what I'm waiting for.
I'm excited for you to get back in there. And are you playing? Like what are you doing? You're such a good musician. My social media tells me you're practicing, but are you going to go out and play again, or what are you excited about in terms of playing music?
Yeah, I mean, I guess most of my close friends are classical musicians, like session players or in that scene. And, it's been really, really hard for session players right now. The opportunities are there. I do it when I get some great opportunities. I always joke that I promise if I'm on a gig, I won't be the best, but I won't be the worst. I'll hold my own.
It's a good place to be. Don't want all eyes on you, but you don't want to be thinking you're.
But I still identify as a cellist. I practice as much as I can, and I've been using sort of Instagram as a way to just like put my feet to the fire and not just like feel a little insecure, every time I play a wrong out of tune note and stuff. So
I don't know. So don't worry if I've seen it because I have no idea. But it was a year ago yesterday that I became a little bit, obviously got more insight into the plight of this because it was my friend's birthday. We were on a Zoom and one of your fellow venue owners, was a mutual friend of my friend, and said, I need to talk to you. You're a city council member. And that's when we started the conversation with what is and the venue this person owns, it's Drew from elsewhere, great venue. I've seen shows there a lot. But what are your favorite venues outside of your own in terms of New York City? Are they big ones, small ones, or where do you go?
Yeah. Well, this is a St. Vitus hat I'm wearing now.
My favorite venue in New York City. My favorite all time.
Turks. So the Sultan Room in Turks Inn is like an amazing space, and I've seen a couple of shows there. I think it's pronounced Suns, not Suns, Suuns or Sunns. Anyways, I really like this Canadian band, and they sounded so good there, and it was a cool space. The one thing, and elsewhere, the cool thing I think about indie venues in terms of competition, which I've realized more and more, is that it's kind of like a band. Like if you're a band and someone asks you like what genre you are, you're like, well, we're not really a genre. We do this and that. I think every indie venue feels like they're just their own niche. And because of that, like, we'll be competing for certain shows, but we don't feel like there isn't room for
of course,
ecosystem. So it's really cool. And I feel like this whole experience of just kind of coming together with all these different venue operators and meeting their personalities and kind of, they say like when you see someone walking their dog, you can kind of see their personality of the dog. And like when you see these operators, like, oh, I see that space and I see this person. I'm like, oh, it totally makes sense now. Like where, so
and by the way, cool. Vitus, I love St. Vitus, the hat you have on. I almost bought that hat too, because they sent an email with some merch the other day. And I was like,
this is a Halloween. I think
that's Halloween one. Okay. Yeah. And that's like a venue I love. I love going to. It's a hard to define, to describe space, but it's really kind of a gritty space. And I hope there. And what do you do? Like, do you have favorite bars in the neighborhood near your venue? You have places to eat? Like people are coming to, when they come back, what do you tell them to do in the neighborhood?
Like it's so crazy. I've been working. So I live in Red Hook, so I'm not that close to Greenwich Village, and I haven't been down at the space much. I don't even know what's still around there. I mean, my go-to used to be Joe's Pizza.
Yeah, of course.
And I know it's closed, but I used to love, there was a blue ribbon. There was a few blue ribbons down there. There was one that had the greatest chicken burger that I used to always go to late at night. In terms of, I mean, the Chinese restaurant across the street, I
would tell people to go to Joe's, man. Go get a slice of Joe's and go see a show.
Go get a slice of Joe's. And then there's like some cool sushi restaurants. Like if I want to splurge, like there's this hand roll place called I think it's called Domo Domo. I just hope these places are still around. Honestly,
I was near your spot. I think some people did the other day. It sounds like people are still hanging on, but I think the summer will be so instructive to whether they really get their business back. Let's just talk about tomorrow. You said the application opens up for the SBA grant. So I know I've talked to you guys, some of your folks about this a little bit too, but tell me about what that is. What should anybody who's looking to apply for it know about it? What happens tomorrow? The application opens up. Just give us some more information on what's happening.
Okay, so it's a little crazy. It's first come, first serve.
Right. That's in the legislation, I think.
Once you get the application in, the actual funding will be based on different tranches. So if you meet certain criteria, the funds will be allocated first. But once that tranche is sort of set up and set aside, the next tranche is based on when you put your application in as of now. So it's like that's going to be crazy. Everyone is like, going to be doing it. It's going to be like trying to get a ticket to a show, that's going to sell out. Like
you got to hold this on that Ticketmaster bot who's like stealing tickets from but yeah.
It's like, please don't crash SBA website.
Yeah, right.
There's that's really challenging. We've been told that once you submit the application, there's no correspondence. If there's something that's not right, your application can get thrown out. And so that, with sort of the complexity of the application and the uniqueness of the application itself, is like, it's a lot of anxiety. I think like, I really, really hope this goes well, and that the right organizations get this funding. Right. I know I'm, seeing it from the perspective of the SBA, this is an industry that many people didn't even know existed, let alone fully understand the intricacies. And then on top of it, the other industries, advocacy groups that kind of sunk their teeth into the bill, that tweaked it a little bit, that made it even more confusing as to like where the boundaries are. So I'm just hoping that my peeps, the indie venues and promoters, and get what they deserve to know in terms of their the grant is for them. So I want to make sure that.
And as I understand, this is the first time SBA is doing a loan directly. I've heard it's the first time they're the administrating agency for it. So it's going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I just did a news flash. So it's a first time, but it's but in some ways that might be good in the sense that they're going to direct, I think, a lot of effort to make sure this goes well and right. But I'm sorry to news to you on this breaking news on the so, and then opens to tomorrow, and then it's do we know how long the application is open, or is it just open until the funds are gone?
I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that's the play. I think it's just open until the funds are exhausted, and then there might be a chance for more funds down the line. It's amazing accomplishment that this is even in the fact almost that this is the first time the SBA has administered something like this is a testament to our industry and how strongly we advocated to make this happen. That the whole like grant giving platform and system was adjusted for our industry. It's pretty cool.
The fact that you had the senator who represents Austin, Texas in Texas. You had the senator who represents the First Avenue in Minneapolis, Senator Klobuchar. You had Schumer come on board is not by accident. It's because they heard from their music venues. They heard from an organized group that you're part of. And it was really, I have to say, like a sort of an unbelievable effort that was put forward here that worked. And I think you guys should feel very proud of that. Let's hope you get the money and it works. But I think right now is important. What is, I know we have only a few minutes left, but what are you, New York is going to be coming back, hopefully, in the next few months. Vaccinations are here. Warm weather is here. Federal relief coming in. A lot of people are making this big thing about maybe New York's dead or whatever. What do you have to say to that as somebody who's so invested in it?
Well, first, I just have to, you made me realize I have to give Senator Schumer a shout out because he is so passionately behind what we're doing and has been such a major, major, major part of why this is all happened. So like people should realize like he's for real with this kind of stuff. So and then sorry?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, in terms of the reopening, I'd rather like put the ball in the court of the state and the city. I'm like, this is on you. Like, make us successful here. It's so obvious that we are going to be a draw. Which accent is coming out? But like, why not take advantage of that to help open up this, make sure New York, and secure New York's place in the world as like the cultural capital of the world. That to me is mind-boggling because it's too much of a question mark right now. Like I don't know like what I'm going to do. My lease is up in June. I don't know which neighborhood I want to live in. I don't know if it's going to even be New York. Like, and this is me, like, I've been here and like cut my teeth in this place since I was out of high school. And, my venue has been around for 15 years and it's all I really know. And I have a question, like, I don't want to have that kind of question in the back of my head,
No, so, look, you're totally right. And we are, I've been calling for this for a while, but right now we have city has federal relief coming to us. And I think it's really important. We set aside some of that relief. We put it towards the music, culture, arts to invest in tourism, invest in people being here, but give hope that we're coming back stronger, and that we don't lose our place as the cultural capital, culinary capital, you name it, of the world. And that's why people come here, and we have to believe it. But I think we have to wrap here, but I want to say thank you, but not thank you because for joining us today. Thank you for your advocacy efforts. I know there's a lot of thank yous at American venues right now, all people like you who put their time and their effort into advocating for them. And I'm hopeful that tomorrow we'll see the financial aid start being delivered to the venues here like your own. And we're always excited to get back into your spot and see some music again. So I want to thank you.
And thank you, because you've been so supportive on the city level and making sure our voices are being heard. It's thank you. Thanks.
Yeah,
thank you.
I appreciate that, but we still got work to do, and we're anybody who's watching here, talk to your elected officials here locally and make sure they know about your passionate about this too. So thank you for joining us here today. This is Represent NYC on MNN. Always a great opportunity to talk about issues that are happening here in the city and keeping New Yorkers up to speed on everything going on. We're with my friend Justin Kantor, has been doing so much for the music industry. I want to thank him. I'm Councilmember Powers, Keith Powers from the East Side, and I look forward to seeing you in the neighborhood.